As you know, Cherrydale slaved hundreds of hours writing our neighborhood conservation plan update, a process much like writing a short book in coordination with a large community. We are 1,300 households. It took a horrendous amount of work performed after everyone's normal 40 to 50-hour work week. We did this so we could earn points necessary for basic infrastructure improvement that are needed for 3 projects, 2 of which have been on the wait list for NC for 5 years or longer. Our 18th Street Sidewalk Curb and Gutter Project, which was next in line for funding this last spring, was not funded because the county manager decided NC was overwhelmed, something that NC and all communities have known for years. We resent that NC staff encouraged us to perform this labor. Meanwhile, NC staff continued to go out among communities and recruit more projects, all the time insisting it was overwhelmed and underfunded. So the question is, why should neighborhoods have to jump through hoops to earn points for needed projects? And will you reform the NC program, and how? Will you support continuing to require the earning of points for needed projects? We don't mind jumping through hoops for beautification projects. That would be Mr. McMenamin first.
Well, I applaud you all for going through that arduous task because it's very, very difficult, and I realize how difficult it is because I'm the community president across the road, and it's been very difficult for us to get our plan updated because, indeed, you do have to find individuals that are committed enough to make sure that the plan gets done, to ask the questions, to put the survey in place, and to make sure the process moves and flows. And boy, we've been through a number of individuals who have volunteered and then fallen by the wayside in Maywood. So I have to applaud you all for getting this accomplished. But the truth of the reality is that neighborhood conservation was cut back. There's only $800,000 there, and you have to ask the question, is this a priority of this county board? And it doesn't seem to be a big priority of this county board. It's so hard to get these projects slated in the pipeline, and yet we move forward on places like North Track, where we could be spending the money in the communities for the people who are in the tax base. He talks about a trolley, but he's not putting the money back into the neighborhoods. I think NC needs to be some kind of, it needs to be restructured. It needs to be easier for communities to be able to do these projects. If you walk along many of the streets in this county, you look and see there's no curb and gutter. And if you don't have curb and gutter, you don't get your street paved, which is wrong. You've got to get, we've got to go on a public works project. And if you take a look at the fact that we had $400 million over the last few years, we should be asking the question, why this money is not being put into these neighborhoods.
Mr. Wimner.
Out on the campaign trail, I've been hearing the same thing from a lot of different civic associations about how difficult and arduous the NC plan process is. And for those of you who are longtime residents of Cherrydale, you probably don't need to be reminded that back in 1987, the Cherrydale Neighborhood Conservation Plan was adopted, and the recommendation was that the new firehouse be built right there at Brompton's. And I think that this is really emblematic of the lip service that is paid to democracy and participation at grassroots level in this county, because you often have the county overturning decisions that are made or delaying them for 5, I've heard more, for 8 years in some cases to get an NC project through. And I think that there are many public processes that are set up to encourage civic participation. But in the end, when it comes down to it, if the county manager feels otherwise, if the county board feels otherwise, they will overturn those decisions, and they will not take into account the considerations of the residents. And I wish I had more time to talk to you about the faux democratic process that's taking place along Columbia Pike right now.
One program that I've been most associated with in my life as a civic activist and as a board member, it's neighborhood conservation. I had the opportunity to chair it. In fact, the vice chair at that time was Charlie Montfort, from right here in this neighborhood, who succeeded me as chair. And don't take my word, talk to Charles about what it was like 15 years ago in neighborhood conservation. You think it's it's hard to get a plan approved now, and yes, it's arduous. It's nothing like it was then, when most of the districts didn't have approved plans because it was so difficult to do. We've provided increased staffing to assist citizens in doing it, and we reduced the requirements and streamlined the program, and we provided a whole lot more funding. Charlie can tell you when we fought to get the bond to $1.5 million. We're providing many, many more millions. This year's budget is $6.7 million, which is less than the last one, but more than the one just before that. And of the 218 projects done, 13 of them have been done right here in Cherrydale. Now, I understand that there's other projects that need to be done, and I understand that people would like them done yesterday. But it is true that there's a lot going on, and on the one hand, you can't say the county's spending too much money, and then at the same time say, but we should be able to build every capital project everywhere instantly. There are 18 projects right now underway. It's going to take some time to get them even engineered, and we will. And the program will move on, but it's functioning at a much higher